Okay, wow, I need to step up my game no matter what.
You were the youngest senior manager at Bailey of Bristol.
I suddenly had responsibility towards people that are getting paid, and through that pay, they're living their lives.
Great. So, hi everyone, here is Simone and Andrea, and we are here today with Filippos Voulpiotis, right? Is this the right
Pretty good.
pronunciation? Okay,
Yeah, pretty
great.
great.
Thank you very much to have accepted our invite. So, a little brief recap of your past experiences. So, you are born in Greece, and you received your education in Greece as well as also in Netherlands and also in the UK. Especially about your UK experience, you managed to work and study at the same time. You worked at Bailey of Bristol as a retail store manager, and then you managed to become a store manager over there. And after your graduation, you moved to France and you started working for a 3D printing company called 3D Natives. And after one as a business developer, and after 1 year and a half, you become the CBO of the company, which is a great achievement, especially considering your age. So, as a first question, I would like to start from your international background. So, you worked and studied in Greece, Netherlands, UK, and now in France. Do you think moving around can be a source of growth? And have you ever felt that your country was in some way limiting your ambitions?
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you guys here. Secondly, it's a very interesting question. I think it really depends on individuals. It depends on how people's personalities are, the extent to which they're willing to explore life and I guess themselves. In my case, it was a decision I made very early on in my life that I wanted to go out, explore the world, see how things are outside of Greece. Because as you said, that's where I was born and raised, etc. So it was obvious to me that I would study abroad. Uh, I guess the moving around allows one to be in a position of doubt because, frankly, it could have been. I don't want to say easy, but let's just say less stressful for me personally to be in Greece, considering I already had a certain established, path and contacts and network, etc. It was very interesting to just start my career in the UK, not knowing anyone, just trying to knock on very unexplored doors and see how things are, like really, being out there, out of my comfort zone, and in order to just, try to see as much as possible what life is all about and how things are, and hence why I then continued on to France as well, because as you mentioned, in the UK, I had the pleasure of getting a series of promotions all the way to the stage where I was a senior manager, which was amazing. And it felt incredible on one hand. On the other, there was no further space for further improvement. So off I went to France just to get exposed again to that unfamiliar environment, to a different language, certain different barriers, etc. I think it's really subjective to sum up. It's relative. It depends on the person. But for me personally, as Filippos, it was and it is a very interesting challenge.
Uh, but let's say, would you like in the long term to come back to Greece and build your career over there?
I freaking adore Greece. I would certainly love to spend time there. I don't know if I will or when I will come back. I think my profession, being in business and involved in several projects in several countries, it allows me to be quite flexible in regards to where I live and where I work and where my projects are based and so on. So even now, I am based in Paris, but I work with a bit over 30 countries all over the world. So the scenario of me eventually going back to Greece, but also working in Asia and the rest of Europe and North America and so on, it's definitely interesting. Not where I am right now, but who knows?
Like that's like one thing that you were mentioning about the getting out of the comfort zone and always challenge yourself. I think is a really interesting point. I think it's like a really good touch point with also what we are doing, with what we deal with with Beeline. We also like to chat, and we also like want to have all of these people in our community that never want to settle, in a sense.
I think the main problem is that many times people misunderstand that being out of your comfort zone is not about having the opportunity to do it or not. It's not about, I don't have enough money to go somewhere else to study or whatever. Each of us needs to understand, based on its own opportunities, possibilities, its own context, what you can do to put yourself in a different situation and challenge yourself. It's not like there is not like a single option. It's not that if you want to put yourself in outside of your comfort zone, you need to go in another country or whatever.
No, of course
you need
not.
to understand it. Okay, that's great. And
No, again, it was really interesting. So our second question would be kind of like
discussion. Sorry to interrupt you there, Andreas. Do you mind if I just add another last comment on this?
Absolutely, whatever you want.
Of course.
The more we say, the better.
Perfect. I hope you guys are good at editing.
Yes, don't worry. We're gonna manage that.
Cool. Well, it's exactly what you guys said. That's why earlier I was mentioning how it's relative, because it really depends on the person. I think it's a matter of mentality. A big change, and I know change to a lot of people is a scary word, because we are like genetically programmed to build something familiar, whether this is our routine, this is our way of living, where we live, how we operate as a society, and so on. We're very used to creating a recipe that works and then following it, whilst getting out of the comfort zone is exactly the opposite. It's challenging yourself. And that's why I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's relative. It always depends on the person. It always depends on the person's mentality, in my opinion. But for me personally, I've always thought of it from a more philosophical perspective of, in the quest of trying to realize in the best of our abilities who we are as units, who ourselves are, it's definitely great to see how we operate when we are exposed to different environments and way of styles of living. Hence why the change.
Of course, I agree 100%. I mean, this is why we have built this community. This is why we are trying to build this community. It's a way to grow and to start to. I think connection, interaction with other people is a.
1 sec. Okay, no, we lost you.
Yeah, I lost you guys too.
It's a valuable source of knowledge, and each of us should take advantage of it.
Absolutely. If I can ask something, sorry, were you?
No.
Like, since you moved around quite a lot, have you ever thought like, maybe I made a mistake, I feel a little bit homesick, I want to go back? Have you ever felt that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it will never be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. I think every time you change something, it comes with its pros and cons, and then it's up to you to identify whether it's the right change for you or not. In my opinion, I felt every now and then that there was just an expiration date. Hence why I moved from the UK to France. In theory, if you saw things on paper, I would have no reason to leave. Like, I was the youngest senior manager of the company, and at a young age I was having a lot of freedoms, financial ones as well, and there were a lot of interesting things going on in my life. But you mentioned homesickness as an example. In my case, it was just rather the need of further exploration.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, because, for example, both of us, the two of us, moved not a lot, but quite a bit. Like, for example, I'm from the south of Italy, then I moved to Rome for my undergrad, and then I came to the UK for my master and now the PhD. So I do understand what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, and I'm 100% agree that people should look at it as not as a challenge. Well, not as a hindrance, but as a challenge to grow.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. And as our second question, this one is a little bit more about. It's a discussion that it's really interesting, because different people have quite a different opinion on this, and it's about the role of education in the workplace, in a sense, the relationship between education and work. So you've recently finished your education and are now part of the workforce. So has the your education as the university helped you, and did the things that you, it's kind of difficult to word in a sense because it's a really interesting topic. So the things that you've learned, do you think that the things that you've learned at university and the skills that you've gained throughout your education are actually useful in the job that you're doing, or do you feel there was kind of detachment between the two?
Okay, so, well, first of all, I had the luck of actually studying what I wanted to do in life. And now this is what I'm actually doing. I studied international business and economics, and I'm actually doing international business, which is, I consider this luck amongst other things, because I know a lot of skillful, very talented people that just happen to do different degrees to what they later on found out in life to be interesting and wanting to pursue. Um, in my case, doing a business degree, and I'm highlighting business because we can't really. My answer to your question would have been completely different if I was studying, let's say, engineering, or if I was practicing the law, or if I was in the medical sector, because they really differ massively in terms of how you accumulate information and then later on use it. Business itself, hardcore business, has a massive aspect of actual real life experience in terms of how you understand and further comprehend certain theories that you might study in the university. So, in my case, as you previously said, as I was studying, I pretty much always worked in business, which was great because I got to experience firsthand all the things that we were practicing in theory in the university. If you had asked me the same question, whether which was more useful and to what extent I used my university knowledge and education in my job, if you had asked me that question when I graduated, I would have told you society tells you that having a degree is helpful, but in practice, I feel like I would have much rather spent those years of university in a job and just building more working experience, because really it can make a massive difference. Now that some time has passed, I have to admit, learning the theories rather than just doing them, definitely helpful. Studying a bit more from an academic perspective rather than how it applies only to your everyday life, certainly of value. But perhaps the thing that I value the most and didn't realize as much whilst I was studying was the whole mentality, the whole environment of a more academic approach to certain things. Like right now, I get to see when I work when I do business international, I see a certain competitive advantage due to the fact of how the mind is shaped. I don't know if you understand exactly what I mean, but it's rather not the details themselves, but more the overall look of how you look at a business and comprehend it. Then after that, real life experience, massively important. When I hire people, I would always prefer to hire someone with some strong working experience rather than many years in the university for business. I'm highlighting this because business is very different to other degrees.
And
A second. Sorry.
okay, speaking of this, we had another conversation in another interview about this. When you're hiring people and you look at the resume and the CV, you're mentioning that you would prefer to see more working experience than other things. What, in a sense, what do you? How do you value the university degree? Because, for example, the guest that we were talking about before, he was mentioning the fact that in the end, the name of the university matters more than what you actually study. And do you agree with this, or does it kind of depends on the situation?
Okay. Very interesting question. Just one comment straight away. It's not the degree. It's not the CV with the more working experience. Is the one with the better working experience.
Okay.
There are certain people that can work for years, and others that can work for far less and learn a lot more and be way more valuable to a company. Now, the question of the degree to which the university name is important or not, it varies according to who the employer is. In traditionally in bigger corporations, yes, indeed, there is a sense of that for sure. in our case, where I am now in the startup world, which is a very fun and exciting and rewarding place if one is of value, I look more at the person themselves rather than their degree or their university. And frankly, we live our lives with society's values of expecting 17 and 18-year-olds to know what they want to study. Essentially, when people join a university at the age of 18, whilst they haven't usually been given much responsibility before that, for them to take such an important decision at an early stage, it can be really risky. So even if certain people go to the university and they get the good degree and the good grades, etc., but it's not a great match for them. For me personally, in the startup world, I would much rather have someone that feels comfortable in their skin and has the potential and so on, and will then join our team and work well with us and develop, etc. I would much rather have a person like that rather than someone that has a degree and because of it there must be value.
I also assume it's a matter of also how many applications you receive, because if you have like 700 plus, there's no way you can evaluate properly each and every single person. So you kind of need to rely on international measures or like broader measures, whereas in the startup world, probably the applications are like the volume of applications is a little bit lower, so you can kind of focus your attention more.
There are positions and positions, of course. In the startup environment, we tend to have more entrepreneurial positions. So, meaning that people that are responsible for certain jobs will tend to work in other areas as well. So, there is a variety of things that we can check rather rapidly. But at the end of the day, for me, again, this is just my own opinion, but once indeed a certain qualification has been done, I much more value the however much time I can spend with a person in an interview and actually get to see who they are rather than looking at a piece of paper.
That's a great point. I mean, maybe sometimes people focus too much on the kind of university, on the marks or these kind of things, while I think the most important thing is to make your knowledge grow, build your personality, your person. Okay, have an identity. That's the main point.
Yeah, no, but I guess it's difficult again when you have so many CVs and interviews to kind of.
I think that one really common problem, and then you will tell me if it's true or not, is people focus too much on the university itself and not on what they love and the activity outside of the university to prove that they love and they are skilled in that kind of field.
Yeah, definitely. But that's how most people. That's what most people are exposed to growing up, though. We know that certain names of universities are buzzwords. And indeed, let's not forget, it's still a business. A university is a business. They want to market their logo, they want to market their degree. It makes perfect sense. That's why I'm saying it really depends on the person, because some people want to have the image. Some people will go to a good university because indeed this is what they are genuinely interested in. And some others will either skip it completely because they want to go on to explore certain things about themselves and their career path, and others will just not really care about the degree or the university itself and focus more on what it is that interests themselves.
Last thing is just so I'm just curious about this. Again, when you're looking at CVs, when you're thinking about hiring someone, do you think some working experience can replace education? Like, let's say you don't have a degree, didn't go to university, but you have 15 years of experience in the working place. Do you think this can be replaced?
For me, definitely, yes. I'm not a big fan of having a degree just to have a degree. There are degrees that can give you incredible information and education, and for sure they're valued. But I'm not gonna get someone just because they have the degree. I've already seen a lot of people with degrees that I wouldn't be keen to hire, and others without that I would. I think we are at a turning point anyway at this point, where we doubt a bit more how the education system is operates in Western countries. And as businesses change very, very rapidly, especially if we look at the last 20 years and how the internet has changed pretty much all industries in the world, you see that people with experience can have a massive competitive advantage towards others with degrees. It really depends on the type of business, the industry, the person, the position. But for me personally, having a degree just on itself by itself, it doesn't mean something.
Okay. I mean, that's a really good point. Moving on, you were the youngest senior manager at Bailey of Bristol, and now you are CBO in such an important company as 3D Natives. Have you ever felt that you are maybe too young for these kind of things? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, yes, I have felt that perhaps I'm young in for some positions. Not so much because I've myself felt it, but because I've seen others looking at me and feeling it. I think it always comes down to value itself, and the extent to which I feel comfortable with the value I bring to the team. Indeed, when I was promoted in the UK into a senior manager, other than the fact that I was tremendously happy, of course, I feel the responsibility on my shoulders. There is a lot to be done there. I reached a point at age 23 of managing 40 people, which is interesting for sure, to say the least. But to me, that didn't translate to fear per se. It more translated to, okay, wow, I need to step up my game no matter what. I need to be the best version of myself in order to make sure that, it's evident that, of course, I would need to be the best version of myself, not only to feel comfortable amongst others that could have criticized someone in a young age having such a position, but also for me to feel comfortable in my skin, knowing that indeed I can deliver on the tasks that the job came with. Now, as time passes by, really, to me, is just trying to be as objective as I can to, when I evaluate the results. Actually, it had become evident to myself from the very beginning that I would want to be able to perform on the best of my abilities, not only to make sure that others feel comfortable with someone as young as myself having the position I would have, but also for me to feel comfortable in my skin, that I know that the tasks that I am responsible for can be delivered in the best of my abilities.
I mean, that's great. I like the statement of being the best version of yourself, because it means that you really focus on make each of your skill grow. You really try to feed each side of your personality. And you mentioned that you were, a young person in a world of idols. So you were surrounded by people who were way older than you. And have you ever felt this distance between the two generations? And if so, what do you think caused this kind of problem?
Well, yeah, there's definitely distance. If you think that perhaps the last generation is the one that has the biggest change generation on generation from before, especially due to the internet revolution. To me, I have always found it very, very interesting to find the balance between the two, because indeed being 22 and managing people of 50 years old is very different, but it's also a great slap of reality, if you may, because the moment I was a salesperson in a shop, my responsibility and my task in my mind was to sell as much as I can. But when the next moment I was managing a team, I suddenly had responsibility towards people that are getting paid, and through that pay, they're living their lives, and that's a whole different approach. And then moving forward, when I got on to become a retail manager and have several teams, and I had people in my team of double my age, with children, with even grandchildren, and so on. Then everything sort of changed for me, because immediately I could see that the impact of my decisions is strong, not only to the people I directly work with, but also with their families, with their spouses, their children, and so on. And then you see a whole different world. It's a completely different approach towards life. And I think this is like what bridged the two generations. I suddenly had to be more mature, more responsible, more up to the task, because I think the key word here is responsibility. the moment you're responsible for for such important things, perspective changes. It's you can't be a typical 22-year-old anymore, in my opinion. Other than that, there are definitely a lot of differences between a 50-year-old and a 25-year-old. But frankly, I think for most people, once they have finished university in their mid-20s, then the bridge between 25, 35, 45, and so on is way smaller than what it would have been when you were 20 compared to 30 and 40. Suddenly, like me personally, I have a lot of friends of like double my age, and it doesn't feel like that at all, because after you pass a certain threshold, it's just like we're just a group of adults.
I guess the point is that you kind of live in the same environment now, because university is completely different from working environment. School is completely different from university. So I guess once you are in that same level, then everything's much easier. But I'd like to talk about something in particular that you were saying, the fact that you had to take into account also the fact that you had to think about people that you had to manage. They were older than you, and you also had to deal with the fact that they were being managed by someone younger, way younger sometimes. So has it ever happened to you that someone treated you differently just because you were so young?
Yes, yes, and it was one of the things that bugged me like crazy, because it's wrong. If you want to judge someone, you judge them for their ability, not for their age or even like country of origin or color of skin or religion or anything else like that. It's really just that's why I was mentioning earlier. It's all about the value. If the value is not there, definitely, like there needs to be feedback, there needs to be criticism so that one can develop. But if the reason is the age, it angered me like crazy. But at the same time, it was the fuel to me working harder to making sure that no one can say anything, because even though this kid has the position that it has, I can't really say something because he is doing his job very well. So on one hand, it was annoying and very unfair, in my opinion. But on the other, it can be used. It can be used. Criticism can be used and transform you into being better. And it wasn't just the young age; it was also being a foreigner, because I was a Greek young senior manager in the UK. So it was double the trouble. But frankly, there were occasions like the one you mentioned in the beginning. Afterwards, even in our senior management meetings, where realistically speaking, it would be about 10 people between 40 and 70 and the 23-year-old, there would be nothing to be said, which is like, I say that with a lot of pride because it wasn't easy, but we got there and it felt amazing.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, because it's so annoying that when you're young, you need to prove yourself.
Okay. Yeah, okay,
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
When you're young, you need to prove yourself, whereas when you're older, just the age proves itself in a sense.
To an extent. There are older people, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's why I keep coming back to the term value.
Yeah.
I think it always depends. Like when you evaluate and you see what value one brings, he or she can be great or not, regardless of where they come from, what their age is, or anything else.
Yeah. Yes. Most of the times, you're not even taken seriously if you're so young.
Yeah, there is that.
bad.
But then, if you have a quantitative method to prove certain things, it was very fun for me to be, when I started, like even in previous jobs in sales, it was very enjoyable to work at a team of 7 people and being the youngest one and doing 50% of the sales, and the rest 6 people doing the other 50% of the sales, because it just doesn't matter how old I am. There you go. You have that. You can see the figures, so it's fun.
You like a badge.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a quantitative method to prove it, then it's easy. If it's more down to quality, then there's
Indeed.
different paths towards
Yeah.
evaluating this. But still, if the value is there, one shouldn't care where it comes from.
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
I've already mentioned this thing in another interview, so I don't know if I should do it again. But the reason why, what really boosted me to start all this project in November, like it's many months passed, but it was a situation like this one. I was in a startup event. It was a private startup event, and I managed to have an invitation for it. And I was like 10 years younger than everyone was in that room. And I remember that I was talking with, I think he was a bank officer, something like that. And I was telling how much I was determined, motivated. I said something like, I feel fire inside of my heart, something like that. And he told me, just put yourself in the queue. What the fuck? we are in a startup event. You should communicate with me because I represent in some way the younger generation, the young generation, and you are telling me that some kind of things like that. You should be happy about that. I think at least. But yeah, I really feel this kind of topic, and this is why I really felt all this boost to start this project and to work on it. So I totally understand you what you said.
Well, it's great, but this is because you are who you are, Simone. For someone else, that could have been a punch. For you, it is fuel and motivation towards starting something new. It's really down to mentality, and that's going back to your first or second question. This is one of the things that university helped me by growing the way I think without me really realizing, if I want to be honest.
No, I totally understand because while you are studying, it's quite hard understanding why you are doing it. But it's up to you and the experiences and the people that surround you. So
Again, it boils down to the value to the person you are. So
yeah,
you're absolutely right.
however, I still have the contact of this guy. I know his name. So one day.
Well, you know the story. You know the story with Zuckerberg. I'm CEO, bitch.
Yes.
You know this. There you go.
I mean, why not?
That's the kind of motivation that I need. And maybe it's a little bit unfair. It's a little bit bad thinking in this way, but it works. It definitely works.
Anger and revenge are powerful.
Well, I would say let's not name it revenge. Let's name it motivation, and go from there.
Yeah,
Let's do the politically correct version of revenge. Anyway, one of our last questions is again about your age and the fact that you've achieved such great successes, and it's also related to something usually people might say: the higher the rise, the harder the fall. So again, you're young, great success. Are you afraid of failing? Like when you reach such great successes, going down is probably a little bit easier in a sense. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. I understand, but do you feel like that?
Well, there are a lot of terms that we need to define in your question. There are quite a few terms in your question that we would need to define. I guess success and failure are two very difficult terms to define. But from a more general point of view, I would say success is sweet. Success is awesome and sexy, and we love it, and it gives us so much energy, and we crave it, and we want to do more. Truth is, if we want in life, we can meet certain success, but not in a stable, organized way always. So, for example, let's take the easy example of sales. If we wanted, like right now, as three natives, we could sell a lot more than what we do, but that would not necessarily be done in the best way possible. Meaning, we could go out now and give discounts and offers and sell our products at 50% off, and I can guarantee you we'll make more sales. But then, when it came time for the next sale, there's no way our buyers would then pay full price if they got used to paying half price. Or equally, I could go and promise them the world about the return they will get and have a big sale. Then it doesn't work, and then let me tell you, there's no way we're going to sign them again because they won't want to work with us because they will lose trust. So success needs to be met in a sustainable way, where rather than just looking forward, it's important to always look back a little bit and make sure that you're strong on your feet and you can continue from there. This is about success. In regards to failure, well, now failure is a massive, massive category. There's so much. I fail every day of my life in certain things, little details here, there. Some others are more important, some are not. But I fucking love failure. Like, failure is what allows me to be better. If you speak with someone that tells you they don't fail, it's like they're either foolish or liars. Like, there's no such thing as no failure.
We are creating some kind of competition between guests, because we had an argument with this guy called Valentino Maiaro. He's such a talented guy, and he's in Forbes under 30, and he was totally against the concept of failures. I was telling him, look, failing you can learn, and he was answering, no, because I hate failure, and so I don't want to fail. I mean, which
is very important. So this is actually an interesting discussion, but that's why I'm saying it depends how failure is defined, because failures are present at all times, no matter what. Like, this is one of the things I can categorically say, because you can see it in your lives, everyone's lives, there's always failures. But not liking failure is very important. I crave failure from one perspective because it allows me to be better, but I don't like failing. Of course I don't. No one likes failing. But by experiencing failure, learning from it, developing, then you get to the point where you can avoid failure again. This is very common with startups, because you see it's very sexy for motivational speakers to say fail, and then you'll be great, and everyone failed and so on, because it makes for good content, I guess. But if you have someone that creates a concept and fails 10 times over, and they do the same mistakes, that's probably a red flag. That's not good. If you start something and you fail, and then you improve on this, and you fail on something else and you improve, it shows growth, it shows development. But hell yeah, of course I don't like failing, but I crave it because it allows me to identify where I'm wrong. And you can see that in so many things. When you interview someone and you ask for their strengths and weaknesses, if people have endless strengths to give you, but then they struggle with weaknesses, you probably need to look a bit more into yourself and identify what's wrong and what's not. When we do like startup competitions and you see people that have a business model, most people, they tend to focus on the great things about it, how money can be made or why their product is interesting or not. And they do a SWOT analysis and then tell you all about the strengths, and then the weaknesses, there's one or two usually. But this is what, SWOT helps so fucking much, because you identify what your weaknesses are. You can see what your potential failures are and learn from them.
With Valentino, I remember that he said, I prefer learning from my success, so for where I succeeded. What do you think about it?
Definitely. Yes. I mean, there are a lot of people that will succeed in certain things and not analyze it because it went well. There was no flag raised, so it went well. So I don't even realize why it went well, but since it went well, I'm not going to analyze it. Indeed, you need to learn from your successes. There's a lot to be learned there. But equally from your failures, if you just go over, don't analyze and do it again, just going to continue failing.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's about understanding why you succeeded and as well as why you failed.
That's a really good point. Like, I love it. I love the idea of focusing on your success to better understand it. So sometimes you don't focus on where you succeeded.
Yeah.
Let's put ourselves in the perspective of a student, let's say, considering that most of our audience is based on students. If you go well in an exam and you take an high mark, then you don't care about it. You don't even talk with the teacher or whatever. While if you take a bad mark, it's like your main priority. It's your priority. That's a really good point.
So I guess this is the end of the interview. Thank you very much again for all of your inputs. I'm sure our audience will appreciate. I think there was a lot of good messages that we can take home. And so this is Andrea, Simone, and Filippos.
Thank you, guys.
Again, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll see you again.
There is another question.
True. True. I always forget about
Is that
this
normal? Should I remind my co-worker?
because it's a surprise for everyone. So go on.
It's your turn this time. We said.
Okay, so last question that we also do kind of surprise at the end is whether you would like to join our community. And don't worry, we're not asking you to work for us. there's nothing. But I'm sure if you would join us, I think all of the community would benefit from it, not only because of your experiences, but also because of the knowledge that you can share and the inspiration that you could give to other people.
Is part of the interview?
A part of the interview.
Depends on your answer.
It's part of the interview?
Yes.
Yes.
Hell no, I don't want to be part of it. No, I'm joking. Yeah.
No, but no, we made a mistake because we usually say that in the beginning and then we conclude with the question. Now this time we are mixing everything up. So we first greeted and then we are asking to join the community. Okay, that's all.
It's gonna be fun editing. Okay, so you want that? But the reason I'm asking is you want my answer like interview style?
No.
Just.
I would love to be part of Beeline, guys.
Perfect. Then you can go into the
This is the kind of interview answer. We haven't edited the video. It's all real, 100%. However, that would be amazing. And
well then, thank you very much, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you. So
likewise, thank you.
Thank you
for your time.